Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Scott Fischer, Options for Senior Living. Back at you today with another episode of Don't Let Haboob Hit You in the Face. Welcome to the podcast. If this is your first time, you've never heard me say this, and you might even ask yourself, what the heck is haboob? And over my shoulder is a picture of what haboob is. And that day last summer, a number of us got up that morning. It was a hot summer day, just like it is. There might have been a couple of clouds over the eastern mountains in the morning. When we were trying to get home at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we were faced with that dust storm. That is Arizona State University being swallowed by a 65-mile wide dust cloud. And behind it was insane winds, took down trees, blew down buildings, and then powerful rain behind it. And I go, well, what are we talking about here? What is the deal? And so many times these storms hit us and it's very unexpected. We might even know it's sort of the season for this, but we seem to be taken off guard when it happens. Too often in the 25 years I've worked with families who are experiencing challenges with aging, particularly of a loved one, they are caught off guard. They see things coming and they don't pay attention to it. They are ignoring the obvious and they're putting their heads in the sand about a lot of things. We are respecting our parents and our loved ones, yet they are often private and powerful and they push back and deny what's going on. And unfortunately, haboob hits family over and over and over again. And the mission of this message is to reach you before the crisis, to prepare you, to let you know that these things are really happening, not just to some people, but they are happening across the board. And I want to bring you professionals that I work with that are in my world that are experiencing this from their perspective, from the work that they do, lots of ways so we can bring education, that we can equip you to navigate these waters, hopefully avert the trouble that might be coming to you, your family, your loved ones. And so if you're a professional listening to us, take heed, grab some things here from Carly today and apply that to your own practice, your own business. If you're an adult child, you've been through this or you're in it, living it. Just lost my mom a few months ago. And we just have a message that I think is for everybody at this given time. And so my guest today is Carly Whiteside. Carly is the founder, owner of Copper Wren Law here in Mesa. And Carly, thank you for giving me a minute to kind of explain the context, but we're here to hear from you today. So welcome and so good to see you.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
When we met, you told me that you take care of the messiness that exists in your world. So why don't you tell everybody what you meant by that? Talk about a little bit about what was the motive behind starting the law firm and the kind of work that you do. Would you do that?
Absolutely. So as you mentioned, I am the owner, founder of Copper Wren Law. My law firm's a little bit different. I am a non-attorney owned firm, so I am not an attorney. I'm a paralegal. I handle the paralegal role right now within my firm. I do have 2 attorneys. We're looking to bring on a 3rd. And then I do have a legal intake person. So we are a small office that is by design. I will not get much bigger than this. We want to really provide services to the community. I am a native. I was born and raised in Arizona. I actually grew up in Gilbert. So this is my community. This is my town. And it was really important for me to figure out a way to use my legal degree to help, the people that maybe don't have access to legal services as easily, or they see, everybody's seen the big law firms with the billboards and the online ads. Everybody's heard it on the radio. And that's just not something that ever appealed to me. There's a place for it for sure, but that's not what we do. My office focuses on probate, guardianship, conservatorships, which is mostly what's going to be relevant today in talking with Scott. And, as Scott mentioned, we will take the crazy ones. We'll take the messy ones. In probate world, there's a good amount of firms, but a lot of them do not want to take on the ones that are sticky, messy, have things, I kind of equate it to Jerry Springer or Maury sometimes. It can get really out of hand. And so my firm is actually happy to tackle those. We enjoy that. We like being able to give people solutions and be creative and kind of think outside the box and just basically make sure that everybody's taken care of. And as you mentioned, parents, siblings, anybody that you're a caregiver for, they're typically going to push back. Very rarely do we have somebody that comes in with kids, with siblings, whomever, and says, yeah, I definitely am incapacitated and I need help and I want to move somewhere that's not home. That's like 1% of the time. So we're very used to people calling us kind of what do I do? They don't want to go. And that's part of why we're here, is to kind of talk you through the steps, what it looks like getting the court involved. Does it make sense to do that at this point?
Yeah.
And then that's really kind of the bulk of what we do here.
Yeah. And just to give people context, you're almost, somebody's calling the fire department when the fire is raging. And so people are calling you often when haboob has hit or there is a significant challenge, right? Unfortunately, they have maybe missed some things along the way. And now that you got a full blown dust storm like crazy coming in.
Mm-hmm. It's very true. Most of my calls are emergencies. And I will say that it's hard because what you and me and a normal person would consider an emergency, the court doesn't necessarily consider an emergency.
Right.
And so we have to kind of talk through timelines. Each situation is different. And so, generally speaking, most of the time where I'm like, yeah, no, I agree with you, this is an emergency, the court is not going to see it that way. The court views true emergencies as somebody is in like imminent physical harm. So they're getting, abused, they're not eating, they're a fall risk, they were found on the floor, something like that. Or we know somebody is actively stealing from them, like a caregiver or another family member or a neighbor. And we have like transactions that show they're taking their card and they're pulling money out. It's very rare that those are actually occurring in real time. And so when people come to us, they're like, I need to hurry and get appointed, because a lot of the times what will happen is somebody has already placed somebody, but the placement company and also the facility that they're going to need someone with authority to sign. Well, if you are not a court-appointed guardian or you don't have a valid, durable power of attorney that gives you that authority, then you're calling me panicking saying they need to move in on Friday. And I'm going, no. And it's really disheartening. I don't want to tell people no, but also I have to, sometimes my job is to tell you the ugly truth and say, well, the dust storm is here and you're smack in the middle of it. And now we just the only way out is through.
Yeah. Let me tell you a story that happened. I was asked to get involved, and this has been a number of years. The hospital geropsych unit had called me and said, hey, come down and help us with a situation. We have a gentleman that needs to be placed, right? He's got severe Alzheimer's disease. Well, when I understood what was going on, he was admitted to the psychiatric hospital on the promise of the family becoming the emergent guardian, get emergent guardianship over him. He had been failing for several months. The kids knew that there was no powers in place, and there certainly was no mental health power of attorney in place. And so he got agitated. His wife, little wife, tried to intervene with his big dude. He got combative with her. They both fell and crashed. He crushed her and fractured her hip. He lays on the floor delirious because of the fall and his chaotic state that he was in going in. So he lays on the floor for like a day and a half on top of her until the kids find her. And then, so everybody's medically compromised. Mom's in the hospital. She can't make any decisions. She is his, of course, authority, but she can't do anything. And the kids have no power. They got to get dad into the psych hospital. So now they got to go to court to get guardianship over dad to be able to place dad. And they all knew that dad had a problem, and mom kept pushing back and navigating, oh, dad, and it's like, no, this could have been so avoided with one piece of paper.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't know in Arizona, a mental health care power of attorney is different than a health care power of attorney. Arizona has decided to split them. My office does prepare those, and we incorporate it into one document. That's the way it's easy. But I would like to caution people that if that's something that you're dealing with and looking at, make sure you have that mental health piece, because if somebody is fighting you to go in, if you don't have that mental health piece, you cannot force them. And then you're right back in everybody else's boat. And typically, if you're at that point, things have kind of reached peak. And I've seen this kind of very similar to the story you just shared. This was a number of years ago as well. It was actually one of my first cases as a paralegal. So, trial by fire, it's fine. And basically, dad was living alone, and kids visited during the holidays, called and checked on him. Everything was fine. They all lived out of state. They all came in for Christmas to see dad. Got to the house. It's a mess. It's not clean. Stuff's broken. They found out the AC wasn't working. We have no idea how long that was broken. He wasn't eating properly. He was forgetting, just basically everything you can think of. And unfortunately, he kind of had become combative, and he'd become, I believe it was dementia. And so the kids called and were like, hey, we need to get dad somewhere. He can't live alone. None of us live in town. He's too far gone for like an in-home care provider. He needs memory care. He's wandering. The neighbors came over when they saw the kids and were like, hey, he'll just wander outside at like 2 a.m. Like there was a lot of safety concerns. And unfortunately, dad did not want to go. He said he was fine, as they all do. And so we had to do an emergency, and it was an emergency because he was wandering, because he was starting to get violent. He actually tried to assault a couple of his kids while they were here, not in like a knowing way, obviously. And then also the fact that he didn't have AC, we could say, hey, this is something that we need to take care of. So we did the emergency thing, got him in somewhere, and then we had to go back for conservatorship in order to sell his property to pay for his care. The kids thought there was a financial power of attorney, so we didn't go for emergency conservatorship and didn't add it on, because to be a conservator through the courts, it's a job. It is a crappy job. Yeah. It is an expensive job. So if we can avoid a conservatorship, we do. Fortunately, that just wasn't the case. So yeah, we've seen it where it's happening now. And of course, they're like, we're going out of state. We want to sign our documents while we're here because they all need to be notarized. And so we kind of had to do like this rush. And that's just kind of how it goes sometimes.
A couple housekeeping items I'd love for you to ask, just touch on real quick. Would you just define guardianship and conservatorship just so that everybody's clear about what you're talking about? And for those people that need that healthcare and mental health care power of attorney, you can see a firm like Carly. For people that just need it right away, it's not the best document, but it is executable. Our Attorney General's office has those downloadable and executable documents that are no charge to people. So they are a quick, free resource for folks. Way better to have an attorney prepared for you. But if you had to get something in a heartbeat, that is available. Would you define, that guardianship and conservatorship for us?
Yes. So guardianship is over somebody's person. It's their body. It's their health care. It's the clothes they wear. It's the food they eat. It's where they live, where they reside, what services they receive. And a guardianship is the same thing as a healthcare power of attorney. That is what is equal. So if you don't have a healthcare power of attorney, then you have to get a guardianship. Conservatorship is money, stuff. Their car, their house, their bank accounts, their investment accounts, insurance, anything to do with money, paying their bills. And so that is going to be equivalent to a financial power of attorney.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in some cases, did they play both roles? Do you see it more often that one is one and one is the other, and the two individuals have to work together on behalf of the ward? How do you see that?
Pretty rarely do we have separate people as guardian conservator. It makes more sense to have one person, because what I have found that happens when they act separately is your guardian goes out and is starting to find maybe, a facility for them to live in or something. And so then they go and do it. And then they tell the conservator, hey, I shopped it. This is, this place meets their needs. The pricing is adequate, something we can deal with, blah, blah, blah. And then maybe the conservator doesn't agree. And so they don't pay the bill. And now we've lost the placement. Yeah. And so they're trying to creep in. And so if we can, we typically have the same person in both roles. That way there's not a delay. People are getting paid on time, and the person's getting taken care of.
Right. For people who maybe were snowbirding between home and Arizona and now have made Arizona their home, or if you are an adult child like myself, and this is what happened to my mom. She lived out of state. As she was aging, Carly, we brought her here to Phoenix. Well, I had to go get her updated documents, even though my brother in Omaha, Nebraska was her medical power of attorney. Didn't do me a lot of good to have her here and not have authority if I needed it when she got sick, right? And we had no mental health powers of attorney. I just cleaned up a case last summer. They brought dad here from California, no mental health. He needed psychiatric inpatient care from the memory care he was at. He got real delirious. He got real combative, blah, blah, blah. And of course, the kids had to come racing in, and they were like, well, why do we have to get guardianship? Because the state says you can't hospitalize in a behavioral health setting without the mental health authority. And if there's no mental health authority, now it's the guardianship court. So they were in crisis. So if you are moving a loved one here from out of state, or you've done your planning in other states. Carly, you don't necessarily do the planning, but you certainly can help somebody or at least point them in the right direction to get their documents updated, right?
Absolutely. We will do the power of attorney package.
Okay.
I can get those done quickly. So I offer that. So if you're in a pinch and you're like, look, we need to do something,
Yeah.
they still have capacity to do it, I can do the little POA package. However, if you're looking at restating a trust, you're doing a will, you want to do the whole kit and caboodle in one.
Yeah.
My firm doesn't do that, but I do have two estate planning firms that I work with very closely. I know the owners personally. And so those are resources I can provide and see which firm makes the most sense for who's coming in, because they kind of, one kind of takes legal insurance and does little wills and is kind of more flexible. The other one's definitely more of a true trust attorney that does larger estate plans, stuff like that. So I kind of send people where it makes the most sense. But yeah, if you have an out-of-state loved one and you're bringing them here because you need to be close for care, if you do nothing else, please do their powers of attorney if they have capacity still to do those, because we can deal with an out-of-state trust. We can deal with an out-of-state will. I'm not as concerned. There's authority in the court that if they passed away here, we can do the probate here if it makes sense. So don't the trust admin here, don't worry about that. It's mostly the powers of attorney that are the main holdup for people.
And if people are here full time, how often should, even if there's been no changes, how often do you want to revisit the power of attorney issue, or maybe there has been some changes because they say, oh, I had it done, and then they start thinking about it and they go, well, I guess it was 8 years. And you want, if you're dealing, especially on the financial side, if you might have to intervene and go to the bank and things, and these powers haven't been updated. I've heard nightmare stories about banks and financial institutions pushing back on old financial powers. Right?
Yeah, what we have found, I've experienced that people have called me and they have powers of attorney and the bank's not accepting it. So I get those calls as well. They have it, but they're, to your point, they're old. I have found with Arizona, I can't speak on other states or just what I've seen, is 3 to 5 years is pushing it. 3 years is kind of the limit. So even if you haven't had any changes, just reprint the POA, get it re-notarized, and then you're good. You don't have to necessarily change any of the wording. It's just, it's a freshly notarized signature. Obviously, if there's a change, you need to move somebody around. That's totally fine too. You want to do that as soon as possible. You don't want to delay on that stuff, because then we get into a situation where I get a lot of calls as well where they were going to change it away from this person, never got around to it. Well, now we're here. And I'm like, yeah, no, if it's not written down, I can't do anything to say, well, they were going to change it. The court's opinion is if it was that important to them, they would have done it. And so that's a real steep uphill battle. Disaster.
Let me ask you this, Carly. This is more about you. I think you and I are kind of wired similarly. When I went to nursing school and I was doing my various clinical rotations, I didn't love it at all. I honestly didn't love it until I got to the psychiatric mental health hospital and I went, my people. And when there was a special unit that was our acute care unit where people were the most psychotic, the most depressed, the most acutely ill. And I loved working in this intensity and the crisis of that. I think it's a special person that runs into the fire and not runs away from the madness of it all. You seem to run into things, huh? What's in your soul that draws you to the mess?
I don't know. Well, I will tell you, when I was going through my paralegal courses, it's similar, I'm sure, to your nurse training. They give you a taste of everything. So they give you, a civil litigation class, criminal class, whatever. They give you all of them. And I remember sitting in my probate class going, I hate this. I will never on God's green earth do probate. And, when you go to school, it's in a vacuum and you're like, whatever. And then when I got out and ended up at a probate firm and then got thrown into the litigation department, which is what I actually liked, I went, oh, I can have both. And through just doing it, what draws me to it is I really do like helping people. That's what gives me energy, is to help people. And this is an area where there's a lot of help to be had. These are, like you said, it's a crisis situation. It's at a 10. People don't even know where to start. They don't know what to do. They're panicked. They're upset. Emotions are flying all over the place. And so when I'm able to come in and my team's able to come in and give direction, provide guidance, and get people basically back on the right track in a plan, that's just very rewarding to me.
Yeah.
And so this area of the law very much, gives me that opportunity more so than maybe other areas, which I have done, but this is kind of where I want to be and what I want to do.
I don't know about you, but when I see someone's shoulders drop, like you've solved the problem, or you've given them relief, or you've given them the plan, or you know the way to go for them, and they could go, right? That's still, after all these years, still the most rewarding part of this for me?
Yeah, I like getting people when we get through and we're done and they're like, I don't know what we would have done. Thank you. Like, I know that sounds silly, but that's really what gets, like, I'm like, okay, I'm good. My cup is full today because I got to
Yeah.
thank you, and I know they mean it, and they needed the help, and so yeah, my goal, unlike other firms, is to truly get you in and out. I'm trying to, like, the least amount of time you can be with us in the courts, the better, if possible. It's stressful. It's a lot. It's a
Yeah.
job. It is a true job.
Yeah. I have often intervened in the middle of haboob with people. You're intervening after the things blow up, same deal. Part of the point of this, though, is to take what we're telling you is the real message. What we've given you, just a handful. I could talk for just an hour on story after story after story after story of people that have waited too long, kids that were pushed back, parents that were resistive, kids that are afraid to have the conversation or won't have the conversation. If people will call you before it totally explodes and you're in a resistant situation, are there any tips or categories of counsel that you would offer a family, so that, because you could see the big one coming, like they're having some thunderstorms but the big one hasn't hit yet? Are there some things that you can offer that might diffuse this and get this thing under control before it gets way out of hand?
I will say the most common ones that we see before it's hit is there's one, either spouse, so mom or dad, or one of the siblings is icing out everybody else and nobody knows what's going on. That's the one where I see kind of the most strife, the most potential litigation. And so what my office aims to provide is true counsel. And we have told people, I get that you don't like your sibling. That's fine. Your sibling sounds like they're doing the right thing for your mom or your dad. You may not like them, but the actions they're taking sound reasonable. Doesn't sound like they're doing anything bad. You need to leave this alone because you're going to stress out your parent. And when you put aging people in these situations, I hate to be indelicate, but it does kill them. It does kill them. And so we need to weigh the harm that's happening potentially and the harm that would happen should we file something. They get assigned an attorney, the attorney talks to them. I mean, it gets icky real fast. So that's where I think my firm is a little bit different, is we will tell people, like, look, I get you don't like your sibling and we can hang out and make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do, but at this time we're not filing anything. They're not in
You mean,
danger. No, we're not doing it. And if that's what you want, we're not for you. I'm sorry. Our goal is to get everybody working together so you don't need us. I know that sounds funny, but it's like, I don't want you to need me. If you need me, things are bad. Things are very bad.
yeah, I'm with you on that. I would rather intervene with somebody's life earlier before the mess really happens. And if they want to be supported in aging in place or staying home, that's a big part of our mission, Carly, is to help. If you don't want to move out, I hope you never have to. But if you let this go the way it's going, then for crying out loud, we might need to find alternative placements. What would you like other maybe estate planners that don't do the litigation, that don't do the probate work that you guys do on the after the has happened? What do you want to tell people that are earlier in the journey with families? What should they get done, and what should they be thinking about if they're starting to deal with that silent generation's tough, man. They were the ones that lived through World War II and the end of the Depression, and man, they are proud, they are prideful, but they are also protective and insanely private, and they don't want their kids in their business. And I call it the generational slugfest. What do you want other
Truly.
professionals to glean from you so that they don't have to deal with the mess later for this particular family?
I would say that, like I reiterated, if you can't get them to do anything else, they won't do a trust, they won't do a will, please just have them do their powers of attorney. And
Simple.
I will say this, please do not use a document preparer for this. I know that they are cheaper. I know they are easier to get to,
Yeah.
but document preparers cannot give you legal advice. And so if you're doing something funny in your documents, they can't tell you, hey, don't do that because that's going to cause issues later. The biggest thing I see that the document preparers will do that doesn't get caught is they will do POAs or co-trustees, co-referees. So now you've got basically two people that can act at the same time, independent of each other. That is a disaster. There's no tiebreaker. And it seems like we always pick the two that hate each other. I don't know why. That just seems to be how it rolls out for us. So if you're in that scenario, please meet with an actual licensed attorney because they can customize the documents. Estate plans are very individual. Okay, these are very customizable. It's not like the court documents I do where they kind of follow the same form. We plug in information, we tweak a little bit. Those are kind of whatever you want to put in there, you can put in there. So that's my one thing is please, 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 please. I know you're saving a couple $100, maybe a couple $1,000. You're going to spend it with me. And I'm going to tell you right now, $3,000 to $4,000 with a trust attorney to do all of it is cheaper than a minimum $10,000 guardian conservatorship. That's minimum. They're closer to 15, 20. So again, I know it's kind of a sticker shock at the first, but you're literally paying so you don't have to do stuff later. You're not in the emergency situation because you also can't put a price on the panic and the scrambling and, basically waiting on the court. That's not a tangible cost, but that's the one thing I would say.
Earlier, you made a comment too, and I want you to just maybe define this message. You said if they still had capacity to sign, if your loved one, what do you mean by that so that everybody knows and is clear about that idea?
So in Arizona, we have something called testamentary capacity, and that is when somebody is able to execute estate planning documents, which include powers of attorney, wills, trusts. There's several markers for testamentary capacity. I am not a doctor, so a lot of the times, if typically people get involved when they start seeing issues, they're forgetting, things like that. They can be forgetful and starting to have issues, but still retain testamentary capacity.
Yep.
And so I tell families if they're on the bubble, we're not sure, right? It's kind of iffy. Take them to their primary care doctor, have the primary care doctor write a letter that says they have testamentary capacity and they can create, they have capacity. If you get a letter from that doctor and then you turn around and take it to an attorney, the attorney will take the letter and say, okay, the attorney will talk to the person. Attorneys have a judgment. They kind of have the ability to look at someone and determine if they feel comfortable preparing documents for them. This will include telling people that have been with them to step out. And they say, why are you here today? What are we doing? Who's that? Just stuff like that to make sure, because unfortunately in this area, which I'm sure Scott and I could do a whole episode on bad actors in this area, there's a lot of people that will take somebody in and say, oh yeah, they want to do this stuff. Just have them sign it. We talked about it. And so that's kind of the underbelly.
It happens between siblings. The kids do it to each other. Carly, that happens all the time.
1,000%. And so, and we kind of get into kind of a sticky wicket with that, but that's something where if you call, you call the firm, my attorney can talk to you about your situation and say, in your case, let's do this to even get you. Because a lot of the times they'll call me first thinking they need a guardian conservatorship, and we'll dig in and see, do you need us or do you need an estate planning attorney? Truly. So, But
I typically ask everybody before we kind of wrap up the conversation, and I just can't tell you how much I appreciate this, and you've got so much to share, and I feel like over time we're going to do another one of these or two because I think we've got so much to kind of unravel. We've both been in the trenches, we've both been down in the fire with people, we've had to respond to these things, and of course, we want to be there as the rescue when they need us, but we also would love it if you got some things in place before it, so it didn't get to us sometimes. But if this was at all professionals, anybody that's listening to us that might be seeing anybody, so financial advisors, pastors of churches, I mean, you name it. What about these painful, chaotic situations that you see regularly? Do you want people to know so that they can avoid it. Like how painful, emotionally straining, financially, you just said it, 15, 20 grand for a guardianship. Contested ones could go on way longer than
Oh,
that.
yeah, the sky's the
My
limit on that.
God, this is so painful for people. I want people to understand we can help you avoid this. What would you like to tell anybody before we get out of here?
If your gut is telling you there's something going on, investigate it. If you get a weird feeling, there's a neighbor coming around that they're talking about more, that you're like, who is that? If you get a weird feeling, go with it. Because I cannot tell you how many people have come to me and they're like, well, yeah, it was kind of weird, but we didn't want to get in mom and dad's or siblings' business. And so we just let it go on. And now we're 2, 3 years in, everything's been changed. Like it's all of the stuff that kind of happens under the surface that nobody sees that comes to a head 2, 3 years later. And so I tell people, if you have a concern, you have an older, family member that you're kind of watching, there's no substitution for an in-person check. That's typically where people realize, oh, and I mean, like you said, the silent generation, they're tough. My grandma is from that generation. And let me tell
Right.
you, even doing what I do, she's like, mind your own business. She tells me that, and I own a firm. And she's like, I don't care. So now I go out to see her every 3 to 4 months just to check in, stay for a couple of days, let her see her great granddaughter, do the family thing. I don't make it a check. I don't tell her I'm checking on her. I tell her, hey, it's been 3 months. I want to come out and see you because she lives out of state. So if you feel like there's something weird, just look at it. If
Trust
it's
your gut.
if it turns out it's nothing, great, perfect, we love it. But usually it's something.
We have that intuitive sense for a reason. It was wired into us. So thank you for imploring people to trust that instinct and trust your gut around the people you love the most. So we don't want your family to be in the flames. If you are in the flames, Carly and her team are there for you. And thank you for the work that you do. Unbelievable. You guys do the tough, heavy sled, man. No doubt about it. Website, contact information. Want to share that before I wrap us
Yeah,
up?
so website's very easy. It's just copperwrenlaw.com. You can Google us, we'll come right up. We have a intake email. It's intake@copperwrenlaw.com. Phone
Okay.
number is on the site. Either myself or my intake person, Miss April, will answer the phone. So you're going to get one of us. And, even if you're not sure if it's something we can handle, if you need it, we're always happy to talk to you. And I do offer free consultations with an attorney to discuss your matter. So that way, if you're not sure, you're starting to poke around things, get ideas, get options. Like I said, we'd much rather tell you, hey, go talk to an estate planner. It sounds like you've got some time. Here's a couple names, and hopefully you won't need us until you need to administer something, and then that's
Yeah.
chill and fine. But I did forget one thing. I forgot. I know that it's hard when you're checking on your family and they're mad at you. I very much equate it to when you have a 2 or 3 year old that's very mad at you because you are making them eat and you are making them get dressed and you are making them bathe. They don't like that, but we know it's for the best. And so it's okay. You can be mad at me because I love you and this is for your benefit. I've seen that stop a lot of people. And it's like, I don't know about you, but I would much rather have a relative that's angry at me and
Yeah.
around for them
Yeah.
to be angry at
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
than to avoid the conflict.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
I just want to say that's
yeah. Yeah. Honestly, my mom and I went toe to toe
toe to
many
toe.
times over the last couple of years because I knew that what she needed was a different direction. There is a point where there's impairment, and then there's that incapacity that you talked about, and in between you got a lot of gray and rough road with people. And so do not hesitate from having the hard conversations. And if you need more help with that, Carly's here to help you. My team and I have been doing that for years. We're here. Let me let everybody know we have a private Facebook group for caregivers and professionals that care for people in this space. The Aging Parent Tribe is on Facebook. We encourage you to come join us. We have several hundred members around the valley now. who come in and share their stories. They look for support. They look for encouragement. They get resources within the group. It's a private space where you're not going to get bombarded from professionals selling you their product every day. It's a safe place where people can come share their stories. And so if that happens to be you, or you have a chance to guide people to the tribe, please do that. That tribe was built for you. And so I am grateful to you, Carly. Thanks for being with me today. This has been a fantastic conversation. Thank you. Thank you. I know we will have more to talk about as time goes on. So promise me you'll come back and let's do it again down the road.
Absolutely.
Everybody that's been listening, thank you. Yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And listen, you guys join us next time. Again, we'll have lots of more things to talk about and a new episode on the way. So thank you. Take care. Have a great day.